Every once in a while, some of my friends will ask me how to break into tech sales because I moved from basically product sales into tech sales, and it wasn't an easy transition to say the least, but that's to say that it was difficult for me and I came from sales. So for anyone who wants to break into tech sales, there are a number of layers you have to consider. Number one, naturally, there is your sales acumen. If you've never done sales jobs before, then it's hard to get a sales job for the first time. And entry-level jobs, especially in tech, are relatively difficult to come by. Why, we won't get into, but it's something to keep in mind. On the other hand, there's the question of the fact that tech sales does require some competence around understanding technology. Just like if you were to sell a car, you have to have a basic understanding of not the car per se, but why people need a car. And why people need a car is a little more everyday understanding or speak that we could use that isn't like saying why people need certain technologies, because if you explain why people need a technology, you might need to know some basic IT or computer science and engineering related terminology. It's not hard, it's not particularly complicated, but somebody has to teach you. So if you don't have that background, that begs the question, how do you demonstrate some sort of sales acumen, or how do you build that proverbial chicken or egg, experience first or job first? I have an idea, and I'm going to walk through basically my own idea with you to see if it's to give you an inside scoop on exactly how you can break into tech sales, get some experience, and maybe even make some money along the way. So one program that I want to show you is this company called Glencoco. I got an email from, I guess he's one of the founders. I'm sure it wasn't personalized. This strikes me as being particularly generic. But to his point in this email, I signed up for Glencoco, I don't remember how long ago. It was a while back, and I hated it. It absolutely sucked. As a platform, it just felt like it wasn't totally fleshed out. Like from a technology standpoint, there were a lot of limitations I didn't like. They were probably designed that way on purpose, but I didn't like them. And what's more is it felt like their clients were just dumping junk leads, trying to get people to work and flush out like contact data. Like if a client goes to Apollo or Seamless or ZoomInfo, downloads a bunch of data and then dumps 8,000 people into a list for salespeople to call, it just seems like a total waste of everybody's time. Like a gross neglect of taking advantage of people who join Glencoco, which, sorry if I didn't explain it, but Glencoco is meant to serve as like an Uber for SDRs, which is kind of like an entry-level or considered an entry-level sales job in tech. So the idea is if you have Glencoco as a client or as a company, you get 100% commission sales reps. Like Uber, they just come and go, they work as they please. The problem is it's free labor until they make commission. So you obviously work for free up to the point where obviously if you can get meet their criteria, you'll get paid. Now, to that point, or to the point I was making earlier, that sounds fine provided that the lists and the quality of work that clients or these clients and campaigns put in to put in the platform for salespeople like me to come in and start working, I would like for them to be relatively good quality. And I couldn't stand the idea of logging in and say, for example, the platform says we want you to target, let's say, for example, an IT manager, but account executives and salespeople are populating in your call list. It's ridiculous, and I refuse to work for free just to clean up somebody's like shitty lead lists and bad data provider lists. So besides that, I got this email and I've heard a lot has changed, and what's more is one of my favorite LinkedIn influencers has joined as an advisor and is helping work through the program, and he's loving what he's seeing. So in the spirit of all that, I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna see, like, is this legit? Is this really better than when I first tested it out? And is it worth people putting in the effort to build that experience and basically go to the school of hard knocks to get into tech sales? So I'm gonna follow what this CJ recommended. I don't know him. He must be in the Slack channels that I've joined. I just never pay attention to the threads. But he basically said, hey, saw you signed up for Glencoco a while back. We have some campaigns that might be interesting for you. Don't know why he thinks this would be relevant based on my background, but that's okay. KissFlow, they will pay you $475 per qualified meeting. It's a low-code, no-code platform looking for meetings with directors and above in IT, digital transformation, or application development. And then feel free to book time with me. Well, I don't need to book time with him. I just need to get into this because I know a little bit how the platform works. So for those who don't know, a low-code, no-code platform generally means that it's trying to get people who don't know software engineering closer to doing work like a software engineer without actually knowing it. So low-code, no-code is the difference between, are you going to design a website coding from scratch, or are you going to design a website on a platform where you can just drag and drop widgets around the page? You know, like we can design a website and we don't need software engineering, front-end engineering, or even back-end engineering skills, right? So somehow there is something highly technical that this company is lowering the bar to let people who aren't necessarily certain types of engineers be able to do some kind of engineering work. And of course, we are looking for decision makers, so directors and above. For those who don't know, a classic corporate hierarchy is going to be the C-suite at the top, so that's your CEO, CTO, COO, CRO, whatever, CHRO, whatever. So underneath the C-suite, you'll have your VPs. That's your vice presidents. Beneath them, you have directors. Beneath them are managers, etc., etc. And of course, there are nuances when you have like senior director, executive director, senior VP of sales, regional VP. That's neither here nor there. The point is, we know that we're looking for high-level leadership within a company that, and I'm not really clear exactly what they're trying to say here, but directors and above in IT, digital transformation, or application development. So I'm assuming these are the departments within the companies. There's no clear clarification on what types of companies, but that's okay. We can find out. So let's look for this KissFlow company. So Glencoco, again, is one of those platforms where somebody who either is new to tech sales or wants to break in or is experienced and wants to make some extra cash can freelance their way to making some 100% commission side hustle money. Or if you really commit yourself, who knows, maybe you make, full-time money. So I'm going to enter as a salesperson. Now I happen to have a login, so I'm going to get through that real quick. So it looked like actually, I guess my cookies or something just remembered my login, so I'm in. So let's look for this KissFlow company. So actually real quick, looking through the platform, right? So hopefully, yeah, I'm just checking you can see my screen okay. So on the home page, this is your dashboard. There's a tracker. I guess I didn't set this. There's a goal of, I guess I can adjust this as a personal goal, some way I can visualize making calls here. So this goal tracker is suggesting that if I spend about 3 hours a week, I might be able to knock out 300 calls in the week. And based on the average success rate of people on this platform, they'll book about 3 meetings and 1 would actually be qualified. So with all that considered, let's do some quick math. If I'm going to work for 3 hours per week and then only really get 1 meeting after all of that, so let's actually do it 1 out of 300. So that's less than, less than 0.3%, I guess. Alright, so the conversion is not great, but let's say we get 1 qualified meeting. They're suggesting that I'll make $475. Is that what that was paying? Yeah, so it's paying $475 for 1 meeting. So if I spend 3 hours working, I should make $475. So $475 divided by 3 hours, that's $158 an hour. Of course, this is freelance work, so accounting for 30% in taxes, that's about $110 to your bank account per hour for 3 hours worth of work. So not too bad. Let's see if it plays out. And that's just an arbitrary calculator. It is helpful for some context and perspective. So it looks like there are some campaigns that are highlighted here. I can also click View All Campaigns to look for KissFlow, which I'll have to do, it seems. Performance-wise, well, I haven't done anything. I made 2 calls last time I was on here. I literally only got that far because I was so pissed about seeing all these junk leads in these crappy lists, and at least that was my assessment, and it may not have been fair, but it ticked me off to want to leave because I do this for my day job already, and I wasn't trying to mess around. In this week alone, there are only 4 people who've qualified meetings across the platform. So this guy, whoever this is, got 2 qualified meetings at whatever pay rate they're doing for that company. All right, so that's fine. I'm not going to mess around with that. General discussions and the community sales floor. I guess it's nice that there's like a little, I would assume like a Reddit community of people posting and sharing insights and stuff. I'm not going to worry about that right now because this is for you, not for me. So let's go to, there's all the campaigns, there's the leaderboards and trophies. All right, so we've got notifications, DMs, I'm assuming. I don't know what this does. Oh, that's the community sales floor, makes sense, and settings. I'm sure you'll need to set up your payment settings. I have Stripe connected. That's my personal cell number. And I can get referrals. Oh, this is cool. I guess, I might have to make this link. So if you check out Glencoco, you can kick over $10 for me. But again, this is for you. So let's go to campaigns. We're going to look for all campaigns. We're going to look for this KISS flow. I don't see KISS flow. Doc Juris, on-site, multiplier, Doc Juris. Are these my campaigns? Alright, so this is already challenging. Not eligible, ready to call. Okay, this is discover campaigns. That's probably more practical. Alright, that's all. Alright, so KISS flow. There's KISS flow. Low code, let's read this. Low code application development platform that okay, so there's actually right there. So application development. So if somebody wants to build an app, this is suggesting that you don't need as much. I don't know how far this low code goes. So you don't need to necessarily be a really high performing or highly knowledgeable and highly skilled engineer to develop an app. So this is a low code solution for building apps that meets the needs of both business and IT to accelerate digital transformation. Okay? Digital transformation is a buzzword for those of you who don't know. It doesn't really mean a lot, which is also to say that it means very many different things to pretty much everyone you ever talk to. So if you ever hear digital transformation, it's actually kind of intelligent to ask, what exactly do you mean by that? Because it's my understanding that it means a lot of different things and depends on who you're talking to. KISS flow is your go-to solution for swift digital upgrades. Sorry, I'm not tracking, but sounds cool. It's a user-friendly platform that simplifies app development, making it accessible to both business and IT teams. See, this is actually important because if you didn't know, IT and engineering are 2 different departments. They serve very different functions, and a lot of times there's some overlap between the 2, and that's okay if there is. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. What's important is IT serves one function, engineering serves another. There are some ways that they are tangential or overlap, but the important thing is if you can say that app development, which is supposedly a mostly software engineering function, that a business person or that even IT teams can build apps without being software engineers, that's a pretty bold statement. That's honestly a great thing to have. So with KISS flow, so that's one of the values, right? So it's lower barriers to being able to build applications for your business. With KISS flow, businesses can quickly adapt to the digital age, enhancing efficiency and innovation without technical complications. It's your ticket to hassle-free, rapid digital transfer. Okay, great. So digital transformation is starting to sound like if you have, well, I'm not going to assume. Let's just find out. So the way this platform works, according to this, is I can start some training. So I need to get qualified up to speed, and then I can participate in making calls on their lead list. Looks like they have pumped in almost 2,000 leads or people with contact information that I'll need to call. By the way, I am going to double check, but I should count this time as part of the time I spend on the platform, because if we're going to do this, your time on the phones is one thing, but for every campaign you have to go through all this. And I'm going to count these hours to give you a real picture of what time commitment it is to be a part of Glencoco and actually make some money. So let's get back to this, my bad. So there are almost 2,000 what they claim to be eligible leads. Hold rate is not relevant. Doesn't seem like they've had any meetings booked. They have 3 people actively calling on average every week, which, as you know, and from what we saw on the leaderboards, doesn't seem like they have that many callers, so it's pretty open field for people who want to try and do this. Across the board, I would imagine. I happen to know that some other campaigns in here, by the way, have like 20 plus callers. on average per week. I don't know if that means it's good. I don't know if it means it's easy or if it was popular or what. But this platform, very low competition. 2,000 leads. There are only 3 people calling. I guess I would be number 4. But 2 meetings have booked. So I don't know why. I don't understand hold rate that well, but it sounds like 2 meetings have been booked. Hold rate to me means that if you booked a meeting, it held, like it actually happened. So maybe 2 meetings, maybe that's the math right next to it. If I kept looking down, I can see that 2 booked meetings, but 0 were qualified. And so I guess that means nothing has held to pay out. All right. This is based on bi-weekly and blah, blah, blah. So features about this campaign. They will give you the leads. You do not have to source your own leads. And just keep in mind the company is not looking to hire full-time. Now, I have my own reservations about, and I'm going to take a minute to talk about this because this is important for you too. If you are going to work for a business for free on commission basis, then either the company is not mature enough and you are investing yourself in believing that they could be, and that their value is likely profitable enough that they can afford to at least give you a big part of the deal, a portion of it, whatever that $475 is supposed to mean. Or they just simply can't afford a sales, like they just can't afford it. They just can't afford to employ people. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it's important that you understand your relationship with a company to be able to keep going and to choose how you invest yourself. You know, sometimes a very key principle in being a salesperson is you want to sell the outcome. You play on people's emotions. Unfortunately, that also goes back to the salesperson. I could be sold, hey, you can make $475 a meeting. So check this out. If you make $475 a meeting, and we know you're going to book a meeting, a qualified meeting for every 100 dials, at least one, and we're going to assume it takes an hour to get through 100 dials, that means you can get one meeting working on an hour a day, 5 days a week. That's $2,300 a week. Times 4 weeks, you'll be pulling $9,500 a month. Well, I mean, hopefully this isn't a newsflash to you, but anybody can do basic arithmetic. The math needs to make sense. And so unfortunately in sales, people will sell you the outcome. They'll sell you work on your own time. They'll sell you make side hustle money, get into tech sales without having experience, without the need for it. That's just a pitch. Try not to get sold by the pitch. And that's what I'm here to kind of work out. I mean, for all I know, I'm going to learn a lot about myself and whether I'm a decent caller just doing this. But what we're finding is that KissFlow is claiming to pay $475 per meeting. And right now we can see they have very weak history on very little data of paying out and being able to get meetings. And that's okay. We're going to find out how this goes. There are lots of reasons why meetings aren't being booked or why 2 get booked but they're not qualified. So that tells me to watch out for the kinds of leads they have or the quality of the lists that this client believes that they built. I'm more concerned and I would care more. So here's some feedback for Glencoco. I care more about where these freaking leads came from, because if some asshole just went to ZoomInfo or Seamless and downloaded some arbitrary list based on title and assumptions and they dumped this in here for us to flush out and clean, I'm going to be pissed. Because that is a very unintelligent and very poor way of managing your client base. And I'm being very serious about being critical with this. Senior or experienced salespeople I'm sure, are going to care or appreciate the sentiment of how important it is to build a good lead list way up at the top. And in this job, this client is taking the most important piece away from the job, expecting me to just be able to show up and dial. I'm going to be very critical of that. So, full-time job description, we know they're not hiring full-time. We're going to skip that. We have successful pitches. Oh, that's right. Sometimes if you have a successful pitch, they'll use your call recording here for you to listen to what those calls can look like. And here's the qualification criteria. So in order to get paid this $475, your meeting has to be able to satisfy these criteria. The prospect, or the person you're calling, is actively looking for a SaaS-based, so that means, think of it, traditional SaaS-based means like you can log in online. No-code or low-code platform for application development and process automation to reduce IT backlog specifically. Okay, I'm really curious to know what backlog in IT might an IT leader want to automate or build an app to streamline for themselves internally? The prospect has a title of director, blah, 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 or higher. Okay, pretty wide generic list of titles, makes sense. And the prospect has to have an approved or funded digital transformation or citizen development initiative, which has started or is starting in the next 3 to 6 months. I don't understand this part because I still don't understand what KISSFlow is or what it's so many questions. This statement doesn't make sense to me. Like I get basically there's an old sales model. It's not old necessarily, but it's a classic sales model called BANT. So it's B-A-N-T, and it stands for budget, authority, need, and timeline. It's sort of a criteria you can use as an SDR to qualify somebody based on, do they have the budget to even pay for this? Should we even bother? Because if they don't have the budget or they don't have the money or whatever, why are we bothering trying to sell them? They can't even pay for it. Then there's authority. The person we're calling, the person who wants this, do they make the call or is someone else going to make the call? Because if we're talking to somebody who's gassing us up, but they can't even pay us or sign the contract, like why are we wasting our time? We don't have a deal. Then there's need. You know, need is a reflection in a lot of ways of, like, do they actually need this? Is this a need to have or a want to have? And can we justify that they're going to get their money back in some way, like an ROI or a return on the investment for buying our stuff or not? And then lastly, timing. You know, if they're like, oh yeah, I really want this, but I can't buy until next year. Okay, I get that. They might be tied up with budgets. They might have another contract, whatever. I get it. It's all fine. Or maybe they're like, yeah, I'm gonna need this in the next week or two. And then it's like, great. Okay, cool. Like then we're on. So what worries me about this is if I'm building some type of pipeline and someone's like, yeah, I can do this, but I'm gonna need it in like 4 or 5 months, then I might be able to still get paid. But you know, if you had an actual SDR job, if you book a meeting, period, you get paid. So I don't like that this statement has a suggestion that even if you book a meeting, but they're like, yeah, I just need to wait a little bit further down the road, or I'm tied up on my fiscal budget and my fiscal budget doesn't renew until like August. I don't know what the timing is. I guess for me right now, it's June, so my fiscal budget is on the calendar year, so I won't have this freed up till January. I'm going to be annoyed to think like, okay, I booked a meeting and they're interested and they obviously want to learn more, but just because they're waiting on a perfectly legitimate, genuine reason that they can't buy now, I don't get paid. That just seems, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's fair, maybe it's not, but I'm used to working for a company where if you book a meeting, you get paid or you get credit for it, you know, however you want to look at it. So let's get into, I think that's enough for now. Let's get into understanding what KISSFlow is. Let's start training. So they have 7 steps for us to get through training. It's basically like an online course. So let's get to know the company, understand its background and vision for the future. It looks like they did not upload a logo or something. I guess these are generic images. So let's get started. So here's an overview of KISSFlow, reiterating they will pay you $475 per qualified meeting that you book. They were founded about just over, let's say, round up 12 years ago, and there's their website. I will get to the website, but I want to keep reading before I go there. So launched in 2012, this company has over 350 employees between the US, India, Middle East, Europe, and Asia. Pretty spread out team. Interesting. They are the leader in no-code citizen development and strong player in low-code application development. So I still don't understand what citizen development is. Kind of an interesting term. I've never heard that before. Maybe it's in a niche I just never been exposed to. Maybe it's common and I haven't heard it. Hundreds of global Fortune 500 brands rely on KISSFlow to transform middle office operations. Hundreds of them? It's been featured in Gartner, Forrester, and G2. It's an industry leader. And then this video is dead or doesn't exist. Interesting. So KISSFlow is a pretty sizable company, I guess. I mean, substantial for only a 300 employee company. And hundreds of people, hundreds of these Fortune 500s? So how many, if it's hundreds, that's got to be like 200-300 at least of the Fortune 500 list. So KISSFlow, who are they? The only enterprise low-code platform built for multiple personas. for IT developers, process, and business people. Okay, so personas is a weird term. It's a marketing term, it's a research term, it's a sales term. Basically, a persona is like this right here. You can change these categories however you want, but it's basically IT person, developer, process owner, business user, what have you. Pepsi, Motorola, McDermott, like solid names. I don't know the others. Dang, pretty decent. So it's interesting. Kissflow, they are featured in Forrester. This is called the Forrester Wave. And they are in what's called the strong performer. And they are only beat out more or less by Microsoft and Creatio. Betty Blocks and Tulip, they're not as strong as an offering, but they seem to be, a little bit ahead of Kissflow. But the important thing is Kissflow's definitely competing. But here's the important thing is that Forrester and Gartner reports are often sort of like pay to play. There's a lot of negative sentiment about these reports. The irony is that these reports are pretty well fleshed out. The bigger problem is that a lot of these companies have to actually pay to participate, and it's a lot of money. So if you can't even afford to be evaluated, then you might have a better platform, but you won't show up on this list. So the Gartner quadrants and the Forrester waves, they're, take them with a grain of salt. But the good news is if they were able to afford themselves to participate in this and then be evaluated and score here, they probably aren't half bad, at least that much. So citizen development, I still don't understand what that is. Citizen development so depending on IT alone, to build a digital enterprise is becoming a top reason for digital transformation to come to a halt. Oh my gosh, everyone's coming after me. My family's in a group chat and... okay. But creating an end-to-end digital ecosystem requires organization-wide attitude change, cultural reform. I still don't understand what we're building. Building apps on IT-approved platforms. What is citizen development? IT constantly trying to catch up with the backlog of work. They're under pressure to drive. Yeah, so it makes sense. IT, so if you ever work in the corporate world, at some point you're going to hear something like submit a ticket. If you have technical problems and you need IT, submit a ticket. So usually there's like an email or a form or something you can do that puts your request for IT help in a queue for IT to work through. And as they solve problems for all the employees, they just go down the list. That's just basic technical support. There are lots of other elements that IT does, but that's just one of them. So when I see things like a backlog of work, I usually think that either IT has way too much on their plate, too many tasks, and they can't get through them fast enough, or they have too many support tickets and they're juggling themselves because they're trying to help employees, but they're also trying to do other elements of their job that don't necessarily have to do with the employees just needing tech support. Sometimes IT departments have totally different teams or departments within the organization. But that's neither here nor there. I still don't understand what citizen development is. So I'm just going to go to Gemini. There's no reason I like Gemini versus Copilot on Microsoft. I'm on Google Chrome, so I picked Gemini. I don't know. I'm just going to ask outright to see what it says. What is citizen development? Empowers employees outside of IT to build software applications. Oh, so this is like a known term. There are regular employees with little to no coding experience, but they want to do developer stuff. So they need low-code, no-code tools. What kind of apps do they build? Okay, so I did understand it. I just didn't know the label. So citizen development. Citizen implies that you are not an engineer. It's kind of like saying civilian versus military, right? If you're a civilian, you're just like a non-military person. So citizen in this case is like you're not an engineer. So software engineering development for non-software development people. Okay, fine. Let's move on with this training. So I understand more or less what they do. That's the company overview. I guess that's it. Let's go over the product. Click this link and watch a short video on how Kissflow works. What is this? This is oh, it's like a whole playlist. And it's on their website. That's fine. Kissflow, burning through the backlog of custom application development. Here's the problem we solve. Finally, the meat and potatoes. Whenever a team or a department in the organization cannot find well-priced, ready-made software for their needs, they turn to IT to build something custom. Yes, this is a very common thing in software or tech sales. There's an old adage that comes up every once in a while, and a lot of companies in software will talk about it. It's like, to build or to buy, pulled from Shakespeare. Like, is it worth building it ourselves? Do we have the resources? Can we build something functional for us that's unique to our needs? Or is there something we can just buy off the shelf, right? I could build my own shed in my backyard, and it'd be a lot cheaper. It'd probably not be as good, but it'd be just as functional as compared to, maybe it's just best that I go buy a shed. Buy a shed that comes in a kit, I screw it together, it's prefabricated, it's good to go. Or in similar fashion, is it worth building a shed myself or paying someone else to build it for me? It's the same principle. So in this case, they're saying KissFlow is going to solve that problem. When if we can't find an app that does what we need, that we can just buy off the shelf or pay a subscription for and turn it on and be off to the races, then we're going to call IT and say, hey, can you build something for us internally? So IT teams are also asked to build custom applications to extend the functionality of systems. Sure. So in another way, what you could think of is like, not every app has to be built from scratch. Like, say you use Salesforce, that's a CRM tool, or ERP tools are like SAP and Oracle and some others. NetSuite, I think, is Oracle. Or HRMS, that's like your Workday, and actually Workday might be a bad example for what we're talking about here, but because they have like their own proprietary code and stuff. But the point is, if you have these really big applications within the company, you might not have to actually build a separate app. You can build an app on top of the existing infrastructure of that application. So in my case, I'm a sales guy. I use Salesforce a lot. Say I'm in Salesforce and I'm like, I would really like for Salesforce to be able to do something about the way that I work. Well, I could call Salesforce and say, hey, do you have a solution for this? Salesforce might be like, no, we've never built something like that. We didn't think our platform would be used in that way. So, and whether we have or not, we don't have something. Then you could go and look for one. Salesforce happens to have a marketplace where you could search for people who build apps specifically for Salesforce. And for all you know, you might not find anything there. And you're like, man, okay, so Salesforce doesn't have an add-on or a tool that I can buy. Nobody else has really built something that can do this for me. So I guess at this point, I have to build it myself. So what you can do is you can tell Salesforce, hey, Salesforce, I want to build something that makes your app work just a little bit better for me in the way that I use it and the way that I work or whatever. And they'll be like, cool, here's like a very discounted license, a type of license that unlocks certain things about our app. Build what you want. And in that case, you need to be able to build, you need to code. So it looks like KissFlow can solve that. KissFlow is clearly an app where if I wanted to build an app on top of another app, I theoretically could get to it. So I hope I'm not too far off, but that's my understanding from what I'm reading here. And, hopefully that's accurate. But it seems pretty clear, like either you build a custom app or you extend the functionality of an existing system. Seems pretty straightforward. I think I'm on it. These custom application requests might be things like claims process, vendor onboarding, deal qualification, and equipment hiring, or endless. Okay, so those are what you call use cases. It seems like people who have bought KissFlow before wanted to automate certain things about claims processing. That sounds like insurance. They wanted to automate the way you onboard vendors. Don't know how people are doing it, but sounds cool. And that sounds like an accounting function. We've got deal qualification. That makes a lot of sense to me because I'm a sales guy and that would be nice to automate. I've only ever done it manually at the orgs I've been a part of. And the list goes on. While these requests get the full attention, most get thrown into the IT application backlog. Sure, of course. Lots of people want things built for them and IT can only build so much at a time. And IT teams may not even have the skills to build everything everyone's asking for. So enterprise IT teams say, not now. Yep. Yeah, they've got a backlog. They're like, I'll get to it, or try again in 6 months to see if our list gets any shorter. All right, so departments continue to have new, of course, yeah. So if you can't build fast enough and keep up with all the requests, then your backlog's going to keep getting higher. Other low-code platforms are ideal for 1 to 2 specific applications, but they can't, oh yeah, they aren't built or priced to handle dozens or hundreds. Interesting, I did not know that. I don't know what other low-code platforms are, so it's kind of hard to, that would be interesting to know what competitors are there, if there are other names we might recognize or not. And I guess I could go back, right? We can go back to the Forrester Wave and see, oh wait, the Forrester Wave was on their website. We can see who their competitors are. Competitors: Google, Zoho, QuickBase, BettyBlocks, Microsoft, Creatio. Okay, so Google, Zoho, and Microsoft are not helpful for me. They're too big. AgilePoint, QuickBase, BettyBlocks, and Creatio. So I'm probably going to have to do some research on them to understand the competition. By the way, I've been in sales for over 10 years. Like, I have been hunting and building my own pipeline, and now work at a startup where I've been building a lot of the outbound motion from scratch. And thankfully, most recently, with the help of a senior VP of sales who has a wealth and lifetime of knowledge, I'm learning a ton from him. So, you know, between me and that background, you should be able to at least see a lot of really senior level thought processes. So I hope this is of value to you if you're still watching. KissFlow, burning through the backlog of custom application development. All right, so, oh, that's right. I forgot. This is where we were. So what is KissFlow? What makes it unique? We understand it's no code, low code, easy access to building applications in-house, even if you're not an engineer. So speed of development, that's one of their biggest advantages. Speed, because you can have a working model of an application up within hours. Okay, so their modules are easy, and they have AI assist, which sounds pretty cool. It's nice when AI can help. Breadth of skill levels. Skilled developers can use KissFlow to quickly build out custom applications with low-code JavaScript components. On the other end, junior developers, okay. So it's basically saying it's built for everyone. If you're highly skilled, use KissFlow to speed through some of the, the stuff that might be beneath you or the more mundane, repetitive work. And on the other end, if you don't have that software engineering skills, you can build out a minimally viable product, or that MVP, or a somewhat complex application without having to go through months of training, or in a lot of other ways, years of education. Got it. So again, what makes it unique? That you can build fast, and it caters to many different skill levels. I guess I shouldn't say all. IT teams can use KissFlow to burn through their custom application development backlog. Applications can be built 10 times faster and 3 times faster. Okay. So I glaze over this 10 times faster and 3 times faster, because faster than what? Like, I know they say it's faster than low-code platforms or the competition, but we can't, as a salesperson, I don't want to be telling this to people when I don't know their business. And in technology, you sell to educated people. You're not trying to nickel and dime people or swindle them or pull like cloak and dagger games. Like, if I tell someone, hey, I have a way to build an app 10 times faster, that might not be true, because that's probably only true if they are building it by hand, right? Like faster than hand coding. But what if that's neither here nor there. Like, either 10 times faster if they're building by hand, or 3 times faster if they're using someone else. But why would somebody believe us just by saying that? Like, we believe it to be true. We have case studies, but I find that people don't really listen to when you say something like, I can 40x your productivity. They're kind of like, but you don't know my productivity right now. Why do you think you could? Just because you've done it for everyone else? It doesn't feel personal enough. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my butt. My bad. The solution of the backlog, because of its ease of use, not just pro developers can build apps, a wide people. Yeah, so it's repeating its value. It's the same 2 value points. Citizen development. All right, we just learned citizen development means basically people who want to develop apps that aren't engineers. Citizen development is the process where, finally got to the definition. My bad, everyone. Citizen development is the process where non-professional developers, often referred to as citizen developers, create applications using low-code or no-code platforms. Great. This approach means you don't need formal training, automated, but okay. Citizen developers are usually process owners with a strong inclination toward technology. They can think in systems. They can work collaboratively with the IT team, but they can certainly get started with KissFlow. IT oversees the platform, governs it. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, this is important for you to know. In a citizen development use case, the IT team oversees the platform and governs it. It is very important that if anybody is building technology within a company, that IT is capable of overseeing that platform and being like the governor over it, or at least the security stuff. And this is all for security purposes. Imagine if you ran a company and you had an employee who built technology and didn't tell you about it, and it turns out that technology is easy to hack. Would you be happy? Of course not. So this is an important piece that even though we're talking about anybody within your company can build an app, but that doesn't mean they'll be building it in a way that IT can't still see it. That's a good thing. You want IT to always be able to see what employees at the company are building. So the citizen developers from lines of business, support, anywhere in the business can build their own apps and then submit them to the IT team for approval. This is really, really critical because if IT sees holes in what was built, they're not going to publish it. They're not going to let it go live, right? So that's a really nice element about the application that they're talking about here. And typically an IT team will implement KissFlow, of course, because IT is going to be the one who's going to depend on this platform. So in other words, what they're saying is even if HR wants to buy KissFlow, IT is the one who's going to have to implement it and handle whatever integrations and implementation processes they need so that HR can use it. So in a way, we're not really selling to the department that wants KissFlow. We really have to sell IT on approving and allowing KissFlow to get in. All right, key features. KissFlow has dedicated no-code modules to build solutions using approval workflows, like we just talked about. If you build something, send it to IT. Project case management, custom UX and page design, connectors, triggers, and integrations. I'm not going to necessarily outline what all these mean, but basically it's saying that there are a lot of features that and much more. Yeah, so these are just things that are helpful for IT to know. It's important for them to know. But this is the kind of thing that you would use in a, I'm gonna get real complicated there. I'm not gonna bother. But that's a good list. Developers can use JavaScript to configure low-code modules to extend the functionality. Oh, that's funny. We've talked so much about citizen development, and then there's just one line about the idea of building on top of existing apps, like we were talking about earlier with Salesforce, or maybe not Workday, Greenhouse. I don't know HRMS platforms that well. Excuse me. AI features. In addition, KissFlow has brought AI features to the platform. With a simple prompt, you can build stuff. That's cool. If you aren't familiar with AI and building prompts, I just used AI already in this video, kind of. The important thing to know about AI is that it's actually existed for many years. We just didn't really see it because it didn't really reach the consumer level the way that it has in recent history. But AI is not magic. It's not going to take over the world. There's no Skynet scenario for AI. AI just means when you put in an input, it's going to convert your input, like the text, like what is citizen development. Okay, so it's going to take that question and it's going to break it down into numbers and go out and look for similar numbers, right? Everything is zeros and ones. Everything's data to technology, right? So it's going to take that question and it's going to interpret it as, okay, we're talking about not what is a citizen developing something. The system is smart enough to see, like, okay, citizen development is a common phrase. It's used in technology and it means this. So we're going to respond back to Ezra by giving him a breakdown on what citizen development means within tech. It was able to make that inference when dissecting the question. It recognized that citizen development's like the phrase, not like two different words trying to make sense of it. And we got an output. So this is what you call a prompt, my question, and this is your answer. You could also do it a little more complicated than this, but I'll probably do it actually when we get to later in the training, when we get to messaging. So in addition, there are AI features. So that's what it means when it says a simple prompt. I could say, give me a code that lets the button turn gray when my mouse hovers over it. Like, it's pretty straightforward. It's going to build out a simple snippet of code and it's done. That's just an example. I don't know if that's how KissFlow will do it. But that's what it means when it says you can put in a prompt, tell it to do something or ask it a question, and then AI is going to say, okay, cool, so to do this, we're going to create boards, forms, workflows, the simple things that instead of me having to hand type every line, it'll just spit it out real quick generically, and then I can edit it as needed. On the governance side, AI can identify applications across the platform that use sensitive data. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, if there's sensitive data, the AI will recognize the parameters that you set, and then it'll highlight it. That way, if it's red, you know, hey, maybe I should check on that. Maybe I should make sure it's green. And if it's fine, you leave it alone. If it's bad, you fix it. So it's a nice way of having some air cover with AI. Users of the applications can also take advantage of AI. They can ask questions and answers come out. Yeah, I mean, if AI is a part of an application between prompts and so it's called there's a difference between context and generative, and there are all kinds of terms used with AI, and I don't know it that well. I just have a general idea. But I guess this is like nice. It has AI. This is all. If it has AI, that's honestly to be expected. So what sets it apart is its simplicity. It's designed with a user-centric approach to bridge experts from those who aren't experts in app development. The flexibility is showcased in the ability to build diverse elements within the same ecosystem. Okay, so this is interesting because sometimes when developers are building stuff, software engineers don't know everything, right? A lot of times there's jokes. If you ever watch like funny TikTok videos of software engineers, they'll say stuff like, half of being a software engineer is Googling how to do something, or going to open source forums and downloading somebody else's code and then modifying it to make it fit what you need at work, right? So the idea is like you can use AI, you can build complex things within their ecosystem. You don't necessarily have to go to another application to build something there and then bring it back, or go and find something and then bring it back to the app you're trying to build. You can pretty much stay in the same, stay at your desk. You don't have to get up and go to another room to figure stuff out. This flexibility ensures that the businesses can tailor their applications precisely to their needs. Furthermore, KissFlow's remarkable speed is a game changer. Okay, that doesn't tell me anything. Nothing we don't already know. It allows businesses to conceive, develop, and launch fully functional enterprise-grade apps. That's a bold statement. In a matter of weeks, a process that takes months. Enterprise-grade apps, when I hear that, it's funny because some people use that really loosely. But enterprise-grade means that it's the kind of app that you could basically sell. Like, you could theoretically turn the app itself into a business. If you ever watch Shark Tank, you'll hear every once in a while one of the sharks will say, you don't have a business, you have a product, and for that I'm out, right? It's like, did you build a product that's really just a product? Or did you build a product that could turn into a legit business and have many different use cases, can be expanded, evolved, customized? Like, can we really take this somewhere? Does it have teeth? So enterprise-grade apps to me means it's something that somebody building in KissFlow could effectively build a business based on the app that they built using this platform. That's what that means to me. It could mean something else to somebody else. In summary, KissFlow stands as a beacon of innovation in a realm of digital transformation. By simplifying app development, enhancing flexibility, and accelerating the process, KissFlow empowers businesses to navigate the complexities of digital. Okay, we get it. This is important. Back-end and front-end engineering. That's a term reflecting that they are lowering the barrier. I mentioned it earlier. You don't have to be a software engineer who knows end-to-end complete workflows for building an app. KissFlow bridges that gap for you. It's a SaaS platform, so SaaS, software as a service. You get a portal online and you can log in and use it. We handle all the IT infrastructure, service, database upgrades, and deployment procedures. So this is kind of interesting here. Some companies don't want that to happen. Some companies don't want their data or things that they're building to be in somebody else's cloud tenant. But I guess if we're building small-time apps or things in-house, then this makes sense. Kissflow is built on Python, which makes us more agile than other platforms. Yes, Python is recognized as one of the languages in software engineering that's super diverse, or rather like widely understood, easy to learn, things like that. It's often one of the first coding languages most people will actually learn. Deployment happens instantly. There's no CI/CD pipeline configuration. I don't know software engineering that well. I just kind of know what this means. Generally, if deployment happens instantly, meaning when you want to deploy an app, when you want it to go, when you want to publish it, when you want something to happen, you can click a button and it should generally work. You don't have to go somewhere else in your IT infrastructure and turn things on. Think of it as like, to say deployment happens instantly is the experience of like you get in your car, you put the key in the ignition and you turn it. Compared to if you want to fly a plane, you have to not just turn on like the turbines, like turn them on, but then you flip a switch that actually gets them spinning. Then you have to turn on, or like then you move the flaps and get them in a position. Basically like an airplane, you're like doing 3, 4, 5 different things just to get it turned on and ready to move. Deployment happening instantly is kind of like just click a button and your app deploys. Ta-da! And that's tied to that is no CI/CD pipeline configuration. In other words, like if you publish something, it needs to be reviewed or it'll go through checks to make sure that everything works, and then you can move forward. Kind of like that airplane scenario I just described. If deployment happens instantly, then that means there's no CI/CD pipeline configuration. And I don't actually know what CI/CD means. Sorry. Kissflow is primarily hosted on Google Cloud. Okay, so here's another interesting point. In technology, you can build applications on any number of like, cloud. If you're building in the cloud, if you're building a traditional SaaS, you would need like an infrastructure. And unless you build it yourself, which is very expensive and honestly not good practice these days, unless it's for security and there are certain requirements and blah, blah, blah for those who know. But generally speaking, it's a lot easier to build on the cloud or build basically on someone else's IT infrastructure. So you could pick from Google Cloud, AWS, Oracle Cloud, Microsoft Azure, Salesforce. There's tons of platforms you can build on. So it's saying that Kissflow primarily is going to host what you build on Google Cloud, but it can also be hosted on Azure or AWS. There you go, right there. Okay. So if you want to use GCP, Azure, or AWS, you can use whichever one you need. But they seem to show favor toward GCP. Kissflow will meet or exceed requirements of various certifications, and Forrester recognized Kissflow as a strong performer. So here's the Forrester report and the Gartner Magic Quadrant thing. Kissflow, okay, so what industries are we working in? Kissflow is used across nearly every industry. So our top use cases tend to be in the energy sector. I imagine that means like oil and gas. And of course energy, so whatever, PG&E, or I only know PG&E because I'm in the Bay Area in California, but yeah, so I guess I'm just assuming oil and gas. High-end retail, I don't know what high-end means. I don't know if that means like the Targets, Walmarts, and Sam Clubs and Costco's and stuff, or if it means high-end like just generally retail sites that are super complex, like they have at a minimum like 20, 30 locations, but they don't have to be like across all of North America or something. And financial services. Well, that makes sense. Financial services can be a really tricky beast of an industry. So okay, we learned a lot about them. Oh, and I never saw that video, but I'm not going to bore you guys with it. I'm going to watch that myself another time, so I'll leave it there to load. So we're going to mark complete that we know who Kissflow is. ICP and buyer persona description. Okay, let's learn about ICP and buyer personas. This is an interesting thing. So ICPs means ideal customer profile. That means two different things when you're in either B2C, which is business to consumer, or B2B, which is business to business. This is obviously a business to business environment, so ICP, or your ideal customer profile, means you're selling to a certain type of business. So it's really important that we know what kind of business we're selling to, And then what kind of persona we're selling to. A buyer persona is basically, think of like the role, responsibility, or plain and simply the title of the person who would be willing to buy this within a company. So you start first with what kind of company would buy, or what scenario would a company be in that they would need to buy something, and then who within the company is going to make the purchase decision or needs it that bad. And if you're taking notes, MedPick is a phenomenal, I wouldn't say it's qualification criteria, but deal health evaluation criteria that covers stuff like what is an ICP, what is a buyer persona, who are the different players within a deal, things like that. So who is the ideal buyer? The ideal buyer is a visionary leader at the director level or above who's well-versed in the intricate fusion of business and technology. That's super annoying. That tells me absolutely nothing. It's director or above, and we need more. So typical functions include business transformation, digital offices, innovation, business apps, and IT. This is the teeth. That's the meat and potatoes. So somebody who's a director level or above responsible for any of those initiatives. Still generic, but better than intricate fusion. So this is what you call this, intricate fusion of business. Well, not even that. Well versed in the intricate fusion of business and technology. That is called a psychographic data point. Psychographic means how somebody identifies, how somebody thinks or perceives themselves. So that's not really quantifiable for someone like me who just needs to find the person. The only thing that's quantifiable to me is that they're a director. So their typical functions include all of these. These are what you call firmographic data points. Firmographic meaning those I can quantify. They'll have that in a job description, in a bio. It can be inferred from a title. So this is more important to me. This psychographic, it's less important to me because as nice as it sounds, it's just marketing speak because I cannot find people like that on LinkedIn just researching. I need something tangible to help me find them or connect with whether or not I'm targeting the right person. But it sounds pretty, right? This individual, a business technologist or IT business partner, is pivotal in driving digital transformation with large enterprises. Okay, so clearly we are only targeting, so part of our ICP is, this isn't large enterprise, but it just companies with 1,000 employees or more. That's it. So if the company is less than 1,000 employees, it's less likely that they're going to fit or they're going to see the value that KISSFlow has to offer. But again, we are seeing more firmographic data. This is a business technologist or IT business partner. It can mean a lot of different things, but they're good. Those could be titles in themselves. Their expertise spans various sectors. We talked about this. These are industries for the company. So ICP so far is companies within these industries with at least 1,000 employees. That's all we know so far about the ICP. And then of the buyer persona, we know it's people in any of these categories and who has a director level title or above. The director plus target titles carry the responsibility of managing enterprise applications. When rolling out KISSFlow, they'll be making a decision to use the platform across many parts of the business. Okay, they possess unique ability to grasp. Okay, what sets them apart? Unwavering commitment to preserving. Okay. Crucially, these professionals serve as the linchpin for accelerating digital solutions delivery. Okay. Their role involves ensuring a seamless translation. They stand out in the forefront. Oh my gosh, okay, write a book already. So this is what we need. So we have the C-suite with these titles. So basically anybody. I don't know what this MQL to me means marketing qualified lead. So I guess they're saying if it's this title within the C-suite, it's qualified. They give you your blessing. They give you their blessing to go after that person. Anybody in IT at any level from director or above is approved. Look for people in enterprise applications or an architect. Okay, that's also IT stuff. BT, DT, and digital officer. I don't know those titles. I'm not familiar with them. Is it just business transformation? Oh, business technologist. Or DT. I don't know what DT is. Digital transformation, I guess. Or digital officer. And then innovation. not, I mean, I'm not an expert in IT department titles, but those are new to me. Some of them are new. And then watch a case study of someone who's used KissFlow before. So I assume like a customer testimony. I will come back to the videos since I've been at this now a whole hour. We're gonna read up on the competition, the qualification criteria, objection handling. We got a lot to go, and I'm kind of burning out. It's 10 p.m. for me. I'm gonna pause here, and we will get back to this in the next video.